Hey everybody, welcome back to another What Sold video. We're looking at the beginning of October, going up until about October 12th, and I'm sharing all of my sales with you from that time period, October 1st through October 12th. The good, the bad, the good sales, the not so great sales. We're back to sharing all of them, not just the highlights. So we're going to start off with this simplicity pattern. I mentioned in the last couple of videos that I was trying to list some of these collectible vintage nurse uniform patterns that I had gotten as part of a buyout. I had bought somebody's big collection during the pandemic of patterns in general, and they must have had an interest in nurse patterns because there was quite a few from different eras that they had collected. And I'm looking in my phone for the actual selling price. I'm pretty sure it was $40. So let me just scroll down there. Sorry, scrolling. Here we go, $40. I was right. Not too bad for a vintage pattern. Let's move along. We've got Oneida Twin Star, and a set of 4 sold for, oh, that's weird. Okay, so I used to rely on my phone solds to tell me what something sold for, but mine is showing that it sold for $24.99 on my phone, and this is showing $21.99. So I'm assuming the $21.99 is correct in that they were on sale at the time of the sale. So I don't know what that's all about. Unless it's, no, I don't know. Sorry, can't help you. Okay, Seattle Seahawks. This was something I just picked up at the bins, our little clearance store. It's vintage. It's the Seahawks 1976 insulated beer. There must have been a date, on it somewhere. So some kind of copyright was on it. And we ended up selling that for that $16.99, but it went really quickly, so that was nice. So this was cool. This sterling master butter knife. I don't know how the thrift store missed it, except for the fact it was really black when I found it, and it was just dumped in with the regular stainless flatware, which is very strange because this thrift store has their silver plated flatware behind the counter, and usually the pieces are $2 or $3 a piece. And if it was sterling, they would obviously even price it even higher because they tend to do that. But for some reason, there was this blackened knife that was thrown in with the stainless. I was with my son and I said, I can't read it. Can you read it? And he's like, I don't know, there's something, and then sterling, and that's all I need to know. Let's throw it in the cart. So that ended up selling for $40.49. Then Tahari blazer, Tahari. It's new with tags. I saw it at Goodwill one day and I thought, you know what? It's not a brand I go out of my way to pick up, but it's very cute and tweed, kind of in the season. And so new with tags was the clincher, $28. That sold for, again, pretty quickly. It moved within a couple weeks. I think this was a pair of earrings I moved over from Ruby Lane. They're just Avon. I think the name of the design was called Lucky Elephant, and they just sold for $9. And, okay, so normally these are made by Costa Boda. I don't know why Mr. Pish Posh, I know he did this listing. This was a larger one than normal, and I don't know if he just didn't feel comfortable because he didn't have a sticker. He didn't want to definitely say it was Costa Boda, but anyway, we had it listed for a while, and it finally sold for $18.99. Now here's another pair of Hush Puppies. I showed you some in the last video that were patchwork, and I don't know that I got them at the same time. It's possible because they were very similar style, but with, these were just solid rust red. Great color for the season, and those sold for $27. Okay, so this actually did take a little while to sell. I'm always excited to find vintage blankets that are new in the package. This was Beacon Royal Garden. Beacon can be a good brand for vintage blankets. It did have the nylon trim, the kind of satin binding that we call it. And it was just for a twin bed, so that might have slowed things down a little bit. It definitely would fit like this season, very fall colors and things like that. So I can't remember exactly what time of year I listed it at, but it sold in October, beginning of October, for $40.99. Next up, we're going to talk about another piece of jewelry. This is a sterling brooch, and it's marked Siam, sterling, Siam being the previous name for Thailand. Sorry, took me a minute there. And I've sold some of these style jewelry before. It's usually marked Siam or Siam sterling. I think the enamel work is what's called Niello, not yellow. This one just happens to be yellow. And I think I had picked it up because yellow is kind of an unusual color for these style pieces. And it took a while to sell, and it finally sold for $17.59. These I think I only picked up because they were new on the card. They must have been fairly inexpensive somewhere. $15.29. So probably $14.95. I don't know what's going on with prices here, but I got to stop necessarily looking at my phone because that's not giving me the accurate, not on every single one. Okay, I have now, my phone says $14 because I think there was an offer on this. This was just a Boston Warehouse spoon rest, and I just thought it was funny. It was at the bins, and it wasn't shipped or anything like that, and it said give it a rest. So, and I don't know why I had hot stuff. I think I might have copied that. I might have copied another listing that was very similar, and that one might have said give it a rest, hot stuff. Anyway, like completely on the spoon rest. So I don't know what happened there. I missed a detail, but it has been shipped and delivered and no problems so far. Sold some hardware. This sold for $21.99. It had been listed a while, but I had it listed on Ruby Lane. Probably not the biggest audience for that, and probably not the greatest photos either. But they were ceramic with flowers and then the brass, so I thought someone would want those eventually. And then another pair of suspenders. We actually went down quite a bit, it looks like, on these. We must have just been, Pharrell Reed. I think Mr. Pish Posh picked these up at the same time as the Trafalgar ones that we talked about last time. And Pharrell Reed is just not going to be as good of a brand. So he had started high, as you can see, with $29.99. It was on sale, and then we must have gotten a $16.70 offer and said, hey, let's just move it. Somebody wants them. Let's move it along. Here's a case where I got some input from a customer, from a buyer, and I'm totally fine with that because I don't know everything about everything. I had picked up this razor at the bins, I think, one day, and looked at the markings and then looked on my phone real quick, and I was like, oh, it's this vintage, it's just this vintage razor that sells for really good money. So then Mr. Pish Posh took over the listing, and he had some of these blades he threw in with it, and we had it priced pretty high. And then finally, I think on Poshmark, somebody messaged me and said, oh, I collect these, and, this is not a vintage one. This is a new one. It's still a really good razor, and if you price it better, I'm sure it'll sell. So I dropped my prices, and the next time, I got a $20 offer. I was let's just move it along. Let's be done with it. Okay, so here's some flatware that's sold. See, I was playing with my backgrounds again. The pattern is called Queen's Fancy, and it's Lion or Leon, and it's by International. It doesn't say International on it. It says Lion. I'm going to say Leon, but anyway. But it usually says the name of the pattern on the back as well, which is always kind of nice. Queen's Fancy. It's kind of hard to read there, but that's what it says. And these 4 dinner forks sold for $43.11 during the sale that we were running. And I sold a hat, a green hat. I only got $18 for it looking at my phone. It's fine. It had no brand. It had no maker, nothing. It was just a green hat that was kind of cool looking. And the feedback I got, the lady was making a dress and she's like, oh, this is going to go perfect with my dress. And I'm like, yay, I'm happy. Okay. Now, you guys probably heard of Sirocco. It's from Syracuse, New York, and it is usually made of like a, either like a composite material or something like that. And it's kind of, you're more familiar with maybe the 60s and 70s version of it. This is probably one of the oldest pieces of Sirocco. I did have something older one time, and I can't remember what that was now. But this one was from 1949. They usually have the dates on the back. And it just was super cute. Tabletop mirror and very shabby looking. And it sold for $34.31. Then we have this atomic flatware. It's just by International. The pattern is called Celestial. As I can see, I had it. It's the 2 serving pieces. I had them listed for $14.99. They were on sale for $13.99. And I ended up taking an $11 offer. Now here are the sterling candelabra arms that I talked about last week when I was trying to just get my sterling listed. These I got at the bins one day. It was crazy. They were just like in a bag on the shelf. And I looked for the marking, and sure enough, it said sterling. And like I said last time, it's sterling weighted. So there is some material inside that's not sterling. But that kind of helps keep it balanced and keeps it from falling over and things like that. So it's just candle. I don't know which maker these were supposed to go to. They just screw into like a regular candlestick, and then you can turn a candlestick into a candelabra. So I took a $95 offer on these, and I was happy to do it. This skirt I thought would go quicker. It's a Brooks Brothers. It's a wool blend. It's a size 16. Anyway, I don't know. What have I got? Oh, this is the fabric. I put that in the title. I probably should have just put keywords like academia or heritage or something like that in the title. Might have moved it faster. I'm noticing that it was a repeat buyer that bought it, so that was nice. $22 for that skirt, and it took a while, maybe over a year. it was pretty long. Okay, Otagiri horse and foal, baby horse mug embossed. It was like the surface, the design on it was embossed, and it sold for $17.59. We're moving through. This little money clip only sold for $15. Oh, looks like I got another repeat buyer too. I gotta look these things up. It's always interesting to me to see what else people buy. Sometimes it's years later. They're just back in my store and they buy something else. But this money clip was not marked sterling. It had no maker's marks or anything like that. They're fairly common, probably a little touristy type thing. And so I took the $15 offer on that. Now, this is a brand of flatware you don't come across super often. I have sold a few pieces of it over the years, and I recognized it when I saw the 2 knives, so I grabbed them wherever we were when I grabbed them. And it's hard to kind of make out, but that is an A and an S, and then stainless Japan, and so it's Arthur Salm. And a lot of times you'll see he has like little bar tools or something like that. So these 2 knives sold for $13.19. Now, Dansko clogs, I'm really only picking up really cool patterns or something unusual about the Danskos. We have as is because I think there was just a little bit of wear in the black, like in the front, like I don't know, like along here. So anyway, these sold for $30, which was fine because I don't usually pay more than, I try not to pay more than $5 or $7 for Danskos anymore. Only if I think I can get like that they're going to move quickly because of having a really cool pattern like this night sky one. Then let's see, I went a little out of order here. So this Gorham pastry server was one of the things that I moved over from Ruby Lane, and it sold for $20. Kind of just an unusual like serving piece. Those always catch my eye. You don't see this shape very often, which is why I picked it up. So $20 for that. This Coldwater Creek tapestry jacket, I just picked it up for the look, for the materials, for the dark floral. I love that. It sold for $25, and it sold really quickly because it was very fall oriented. More of the dinner forks sold, of the Queen's Fancy, and those sold for $25. These, I think, got moved over from Ruby Lane. I can always tell with the white background because Ruby Lane removes the background for you on the first photo. So these sold for $24 pretty quickly. So that brand that you've seen me learn about in the last couple months, Spring Step, didn't quite realize how well they sold. And one of you let me know, I think Charlotte, you let me know that they were, like now they're L'Artiste by Spring Step, and that those are pretty, that I think L'Artiste sells pretty well also. All I know is now that I look for it at the thrift stores, I might have sold some L'Artiste in the past, but when I've seen it recently, the thrift stores have it priced really high. So they don't maybe know about Spring Step, but they know about L'Artiste. So these were such a cute little Mary Jane with the swirl, and those sold for $35.99. And just this Alaska Airlines coffee mug. It was just, we got this at the bins one day. It was like got marbling through it. Nothing special, no maker or anything on it. $27.99 we got for that mug. And then this is something I've noticed. These listings are not connected in any way. I don't have what do you call it? I don't have a variation listing, but like this Queen's Fancy has sat and sat and sat. And then once I sold some dinner forks, it kind of woke like the listings up. And then the teaspoons sold as well. So whether it's the same buyer, bought a couple different things, came back a couple days later and bought some more, I'm not sure. But these were two different listings, but it's kind of like once I start selling flatware, then I sell a bit of flatware. So it kind of happens in each category of your shop. Will happen if you list a bunch of ties and then sell some ties, you might sell some older ties too, because it just kind of, that algorithm gets going in that section of your store. So one more on eBay for the beginning of October. Waltz of Spring, another sterling. This was sterling handled. This had been over on Ruby Lane as well, and I took an $18 offer for that one. Let's hop over to Posh. This was the beginning of October, was still like the second half of our week away on our vacation, and so some of the other platforms were a little bit slower to get going. Here's another pair of Spring Step sandals. They sold for $20. If you guys remember, I think I shared finding this mug. It might have been at the bins one day. There's a bunch of other cow mugs, and this one jumped out at me, obviously, because of the abstract kind of art, or the pop art. And it's a Chaleur coffee mug, which I've sold quite a few of over the years. I'll show you the bottom. It says Chaleur, and the artist is Jeff Ringer, and it sold for $25 on Poshmark pretty quickly. This Sackroots wallet sold for $15. It sat right near my photo studio for like a year. Like I didn't even list it. It's like the easiest thing to do. It had an owl on it. It was probably the only reason I picked it up. 15. It was not super rare or anything like that, so it wasn't worth as much as I thought it was. So I think I kind of lost interest in it when I brought it home and realized it was kind of eh. But it did sell fairly quickly on Posh once I got it listed, so that should teach me. This was kind of hard to describe, and like it was really cool. I guess I would call it a dickie. It was like a scarf that had buttons and buttonholes. It did have a tag with a maker or somewhere. Maybe I just looked up the RN number. Now I can't remember. Yeah, RN number was assigned to Durlocker and Company, whatever that means. If that means anything to anyone. But it was made in the USA, and it was just very disco, very 70s, right? And the buttons were rhinestones. And so you just kind of, you drape it, and then you could wear it under like a blazer or something like that. And then you don't, you know what a dickie does. You guys know. Then you don't have a big heavy blouse under your jacket, but you look like you can cover up quite nicely. Anyway, maybe metallic's not quite the thing right now. So this I found at Goodwill at the end of winter. Yeah, end of winter last year. And it sold for $66. It was in the men's sweaters, and then I went to list it and I found out it's a woman's sweater. And then it's just like, this is a size small, and so it's called like it's oversized. It's like a boyfriend sweater. But the brand is Lost Horizons, designed in Canada. I think I remember picking this up at a yard sale this summer. Same place I got a pair of Nike SB shoes. I just can picture buying those two things together. It's just a vintage Columbia fleece-lined kind of trapper-style hat. Just the kind of thing you don't find anymore. It looks like it's barely fitting on our little styrofoam mannequin, but he looks like he'd be toasty if he was outside. And then this Nike golf sweater, I only picked it up because it was merino wool, and it took quite a while to sell. You know, if it was a little bit smaller, I probably would have worn it. It's a little bit too big for me, but $20 finally. Somebody wanted it. Over on Etsy, we have a sewing pattern from the 70s by Butterick. A bodysuit and a miniskirt, and that sold for $20. It was a size 12. Size 12 in, like, back then, vintage size 12. Another size 12 little vintage Butterick pattern sold for $14. Little halter tops, cute little tanks. A wrap top, or at least I don't know if it was real wrap or if it was faux or surplice or whatever, but $16. Is it surplice or surplice? It's another one of those words I only ever see written and I never hear anybody say it. 16. This was a newer Simplicity pattern. I went ahead and listed it anyway. $11. I'm not as excited about the newer stuff, but then I started to realize too that the whole thing of like the pattern companies going out of business, that some people might want some of these newer ones. They might be a little bit harder to get. Or Joann's going out of business too. Doesn't help. Very trendy little wide leg pants by McCall's, sold for $12. It was a smaller size too, an 8 to 10 or so, but that's okay. $12. That moved along. This Vogue pattern sold for $15. I feel like I've sold this pattern a couple times. And a men's shirt pattern. What are we saying? The 80s. That's what I was thinking. And it sold for $12 as well. In the other shop on Etsy, we have this sugar spoon from 1904 by 1847 Rogers Brothers. This wasn't... I sold some similar ones, or I should say chocolate spoons, in this pattern for really good money, but the sugar spoon wasn't worth as much. So it was kind of cool that once I cross-posted it to Etsy, it found a buyer pretty quickly. Cute little mod-style cat pin by Emmons. Emmons is like one of those sister companies to Sarah Coventry. Similar, I think same people, but similar idea with parties and things like that. This Boston pencil sharpener, we've always done pretty well with old school style pencil sharpeners. So I picked it up at Goodwill one day without giving it much thought or even like checking it. And then Mr. Pish Posh was like, it's not that great. But I was like, you know what, we're going to cross post it to Etsy because that's where the buyers are for it, you know. And so we did, and it did. It sold like within a week or something like that for $19. Here's some more Twin Star dinner forks that sold on Etsy this time, and these sold for $25, full asking price. And a little creamer and sugar by Fig Joe Flint, the Tory design Lotte, Lotte. Let me see if I can find the bottom to show you. I don't even know. I probably was back. Etsy didn't have as many photos as they do now, so I might not have cross-posted it as good as I could have. I think I was trying to show all the sides. Did I get the bottoms? I guess not. That's terrible. See, I usually, when I cross-post, I end up like rearranging my photos, especially if like Etsy has less photos than, say, eBay. I usually move things around so that you do get a picture of everything. Yeah, so I guess I didn't do that on that. Oh well. People knew what they wanted, so they bought it for $40, but I'll have to pay better attention to that in the future. This Napier necklace sold for $20. I think this person, the buyer, actually used, I have like make offer enabled in my Etsy shop. As you can see, the button right here. And I don't like their whole system for doing it. It goes through messages and it's just kind of wonky. But they came back, you know, they do have a time limit to pay now. But she came back and she had offered me $20 and I accepted, and so then she purchased. And then on Etsy, the last thing were the silver-plated Gerber baby spoons that were still sealed, and we got $18 for those, so not bad. And then I had a Mercari sale. It's one of the Le Creuset. I might have mentioned this before. I was trying to spread into another audience because it, like I've said before, it felt like I had used up my audience on eBay and on Poshmark. Like the new ones I was listing were not selling as quickly. And so I was like, well, let me try Mercari. And so she did offer me a lower price, but I decided to stick. I was like, I don't want to go any lower than $45. And so she came back and accepted my counter offer and bought it for $45. And so far, so good. So, okay, I hope you guys are having a great Sunday, if that's when this video is coming out. And that's my plan anyway. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. Just wanted to get another What Sold video in here, slowly catching up so that I can get more current, because the further back it goes, the harder it is for me to remember any details about where I found the item or any kind of interesting things about details of the sale. So leave me a comment down below. How was your past week of sales? Is November, beginning of November, treating you well or not? And I will talk to you again soon.